Hey now! What is up, everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka Review King MB, and Smallville Rewind. I am excited to talk about this episode. It is called Leech, and as soon as I saw the title, I instantly remembered what this episode was about. But the rewatch was quite interesting. So at the very beginning, we see that Clark and the other kids are on a field trip. It's so many field trips that like they're just sort of randomly going around in like this wooded area looking for rocks. I'm like, what is this? Right? Like I don't remember going on at least field trips quite like this. But it's interesting when Clark uses his X-ray vision to locate the rocks that they're all looking for. Again, if I had these powers in high school, I would absolutely be doing stuff like that. So I'm glad to see that they show Clark doing stuff like that. Also, it feels like it's been a while since we've seen Lana Lang wear her necklace, her patented necklace, the kryptonite necklace. It seems like she doesn't wear it every single episode. So when she just walked up on Clark and had it on, and Clark got sick, it's almost like, man, does Clark have to sort of find out the hard way whether Lana decided today's the day to wear the necklace because she doesn't always wear it every day, and then the days that she does, it's Clark's like, fuck, like why did she have to pick today? And so we get introduced to this character, Eric, who is played by Shawn Ashmore. And I think most of us have seen Shawn Ashmore before, as far as whether it's just other movies, other shows, or the X-Men movies as Bobby, Iceman. So this was cool. You see him, he's sort of trying to, I don't want to say flirt, but he's trying to, get the attention of this girl in his class, but she has this jock asshole boyfriend, of course, of course. But what's even worse than that is that Eric's father is a teacher who's there and treating him like shit. I mean, he just goes up to him and says, "You better find all these rocks or else." I mean, that's the vibe and the attitude this father has. It's like, God damn, dude, really? Seriously? And you cut to Eric being on the end of this bridge. Is this? No. Is this the same bridge? This isn't, right? The same bridge that Clark saved Lex on? I don't think it is. But maybe it is. I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm trying to decipher whether maybe somebody in the comments can let me know if it's the same bridge. So Eric is on the side of the bridge and he's clearly contemplating killing himself. And honestly, I get it. Between the father, between the girl, between the bully, probably everything else going on in his life, he's just like, fuck this shit. Luckily, Clark volunteered to go look for him. And he finds him. He instantly goes to grab him to save him. And then, what do you know? And I love the shot. The shot of Clark getting struck by lightning. There's lightning hitting his chest. Even though he's not Superman yet, even though he's not wearing the Superman costume, for whatever reason, I can picture Superman or him as Superman and this happening to him. It was just the way it was shot, the profile. It was kind of an iconic shot of the episode. And you instantly see that something happened. You don't know exactly what until you see that Eric's shirt has like fire on it. Clark goes to try to put it out and he burns himself, which is like, oh, that's different. And Eric's not reacting to the fire. And I think it's pretty obvious by that point what's happening, but even more so from the next scene where Clark is coming home, or actually I think he's about to leave for school, and Jonathan is having issues with his truck in the mud. He asks Clark to help him, and Clark is like, oh yeah, sure, fine, no problem. He goes to lift it, he can't lift it. And this is kind of embarrassing. This is like, oops, especially because Jonathan doesn't really seem to like to ask Clark to use his powers. So the one time he does, Clark kind of falls and hurts himself. Also, he realizes that his super speed is gone because he missed his school bus, and so he has to, like, run normal. There's even a moment in gym class where he comes back after running laps, and even Pete's like, Clark, are you okay? Because Clark is just sweating and drained of energy, and it's very amusing to see Tom Welling play this exasperated Clark Kent. He finds Eric at the, whether it's like a workout area, and he's asking them questions if he feels fine, if he feels okay. And Eric's like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, everything's great. Nothing's weird. Nothing's not normal. And Clark starts having nosebleeds, which is also something that is quite weird to see Clark Kent bleeding so much. And then you see Eric go to the 600-pound weights and just starts pushing it like it's nothing. And I don't know how he just, in front of everybody, he's not trying to hide that he's doing this at all. And given how much little joy he probably has in his life, it makes sense that maybe he's going for it. There was also a scene where Eric's father was being a dick to him in the morning, and he looked like he went to maybe hit Eric. And Eric, quick reflexes, super speed, grabbed his hand. Interesting that the father never really, like, he says, how did you do that? But I don't know if he was talking about the speed or just blocking his hit, because you should react more to the speed if that's exactly what he was talking about. Also, there is a scene of Lex, finally that reporter guy that Lex blackmailed, who was trying to blackmail Lex at first. Finally, we get something with this where he goes to Lex and says that, like, he can find out some stuff about the Kents, whatever they have to do. Lex has this, like, computer recreation of the accident, and from that recreation, it's obvious that there was no way Clark was not hit by that car, that he was hit by the car. Lex goes to the farm to ask Clark straight up. And, like, I love this. Sure, it's convenient that Lex is doing this on the particular episode that Clark lost his powers, but he is questioning Clark about the bridge and saying, like, I'm your friend, you can tell me the truth. I feel like you're hiding something, which it's like, yes, be transparent. Clark, I feel like you're hiding something. You can tell me. Now, Clark doesn't tell him, of course, and Clark makes it a point to show how tired he is of doing all of the chores and farm work. But I do like the fact that Clark makes it a point to, like, even when he comes home and he tells his father that this is taking me 2 hours as opposed to the 5 minutes it usually takes me. But Clark's not complaining about doing the chores, or he's not complaining about not having powers. He's more so just wowed by what it's like to not have his powers, to do things without having his powers. But when Jonathan says it's okay, you don't have to do any more chores for the day, blah, 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 Clark insists, like, no, I'll do it. I like that. I like that Clark wasn't this woe is me, wasn't all boo-hoo. Lex is sort of, he doesn't know what to make of Clark sort of being so normal or being more weak than usual. There was one scene where Clark says to his parents at one point, I hope you don't feel different about me now that I don't have my powers. And it was sad to hear Clark say that, because he's more worried about what his parents think of him versus, like, himself not having the powers. I love that Martha and Jonathan said, of course not. So that was great. You get a scene of Lana being upset with her aunt because her aunt is selling the flower shop. And I think it has some sort of connection to her, the movie theater too, that was connected because of it's where her parents met and blah, blah, blah. And, like, I get it, Lana. I get it. But if her business is not doing well, if she's not making money, there's nothing she can do here. If she has to sell it so that she doesn't lose all of her money, so, like, I know Lana and her sentiment, I appreciate it, but come on, let's be realistic here. Also, when Chloe and Pete are walking down a street, this, like, thief runs up and grabs her bag. And Eric newly powered Eric sees this, speeds to the guy. I'm sitting here going like, holy shit, he's doing this in front of everybody. So many witnesses are seeing him use powers. He puts his hand up when the guy pulls out a knife, shatters the knife, throws the guy like 30 feet into the air through a glass thing. Pretty badass. Everybody is like, holy shit, this is cool. Chloe is instantly enamored, and even the next day Chloe wrote a story about Eric using his powers and how cool he is, and Eric even goes up to her and she's very flustered and very flirty. And I found that funny, Chloe flirting with Shawn Ashmore, because later on, I want to say season 6, she ends up dating Jimmy Olsen, who is played by Shawn Ashmore's twin brother, Aaron Ashmore. And when I say like they look exactly alike, it's to the point where when I first saw this show, and obviously I remember this Shawn Ashmore character, he even comes back, I think, in season 3. And then when Aaron Ashmore shows up, I thought it was the same actor. I was confused and I thought, wait, they just recasted the same person in a different role? Why did they do that? And then I had to research and say, oh, he has a brother. So Chloe flirting with him, I think, is funny and sort of a sign of things to come. Clark, I felt bad for Clark having to downplay the story of like, oh, all he did was do this and that. It's no big deal. He's feeling a little salty over somebody getting credit over his powers. But he did explain that, though. It wasn't so much that he was jealous. It was more so of him feeling like he went all of this time maintaining his secret, trying to make sure his secret doesn't get out, being so worried about that and what bad things could happen to him. Only to see Eric is popular, how everyone is loving Eric from having these powers. And that perspective, I thought, okay, Clark actually has a point. And Clark actually has a reason to maybe feel regretful over him not having the same freedom to do what he could have done with the powers the way Eric is. And there's a moment where Lana walks up to him with the necklace. The necklace is not affecting him, which is, now that I'm thinking about it, because just watching it straight up, I'm like, okay, cool, that makes sense. And he's happy that he can be around Lana and the necklace and not feel sick, so that's obviously there. But because he lost his powers through lightning, would that necessarily change his DNA as a Kryptonian, as an alien? That kryptonite would make him weak? I'm not sure if it makes sense. That, okay, fine, sure, he loses his powers, but would he still not be susceptible to kryptonite? He's an alien. It's not like it made him human. It just took away the powers that he gets from the sun. I know, when I say it's not believable, look at what we're dealing with. Why am I even bothering and making it seem like any of this is supposed to make sense? But I said it out loud, so it's been said. And Whitney asks Pete if they want to play basketball with him. And I couldn't help but think, why would they want to play basketball with you, Whitney? You're a fucking dick to Clark. Whether or not I've tried in the past to understand Whitney's point of view, and I still attest to that Whitney has a point of view. But why would you try to want to play anything with them or hang out with them in any way, shape, or form? It just felt odd because obviously Clark won't like him, right? And Pete, being Clark's best friend, Pete should say fuck you to Whitney too. I know Pete's on the football team with Whitney, and so maybe there's a gray area as far as I have to kind of kiss this guy's ass, whatever, right? But he says no, and then Clark, not having his power, says, you know what? Yes, we can play. And Clark is more down to do this because he's never been able to play any type of sports in a real way without worrying about his powers. And so I liked that for him. I liked the scene of them playing basketball and Clark getting knocked down, getting hurt, but then smiling over the idea of I just got hurt. Cool, it's something that I think you usually go through when you're even younger than that. And they were playing Sum 41, which sort of blew my mind. It blows my mind, especially in this episode, how many songs that they played that I either grew up listening to or that I have on my playlist that I'm like, yeah, this is a pretty cool soundtrack. So you have that scene, and then you have a scene. I should talk about this side plot. We have a side plot of Lex is meeting with Victoria's father, her British father, and he's supposed to talk about maybe merging their companies or coming up with some sort of deal to maybe try to oust Lionel Luthor behind his back. Come to find out that Victoria's father actually went out and bought this Cadmus company, a company that Lex had been looking into on his computer. Obviously, Victoria was going through his computer. Obviously, Victoria went behind Lex's back and went to her father and used this information to get her father to buy this company. And, Lex seems defeated. He seems like, well, I got played. I got screwed. And I got screwed in more ways than one by this Victoria girl. Come to find out later that this was all a plot by Lex, that he planted that stuff in his computer, knowing that she would go through it, knowing that she would go off and tell the father, which is great. I know that Lex has told Lionel in the past, and he told Clark in the past that he has it covered, that he knows what he's doing, but you never quite understood or grasped how much did he know what he's doing. And this shows it, that he screwed them, he played them, and Victoria confirmed that she wasn't on his side. They bought this company, Cadmus, that actually wasn't worth anything. So the father spent all of this money on this thing that's for nothing. And now it leaves his company vulnerable for Lex to now buy the company. So great stuff. I love when the show makes Lex look like he's 12 steps ahead of anyone. It's only interesting that he can't figure out the Clark thing. Clark's the one thing that he just can't fully. You would think the easiest thing would be to just set up cameras in Clark's barn. There's something as simple and as easy as, like, well, let's just put cameras around and catch Clark doing shit. I don't know why Lex never did that, but I think this episode, it shows Lex sort of realize that maybe he is doing things the wrong way by looking into the Kents, and he decides that they're off limits. And so maybe that's why he never ends up doing that, but at some point it's surprising that he never did it. There's a scene where Eric gets scolded by his father over these powers, like even the powers aren't good enough to make the father love Eric, and so Eric gets mad, picks him up, right, and makes the father look like a complete bitch, storms out of the house, goes to school in this leather jacket. He's bumping with the stereo. Bone Cracker. I love this song. Like, this song is great. When I heard this song, it was kind of like, shit, I don't remember necessarily this being in the episode, or at least I forgot. And so this song is playing during the scene. I'm loving all of it. And Eric goes up to the girl that he likes and asks her out in front of her boyfriend. The boyfriend gets mad. Eric's like, fuck you, I got powers. And chases him around. And I love when Clark sees this. When Clark sees Eric abusing his powers, throwing the jock's truck across the thing, and Clark, without his powers, goes up to him to try to stop this, to try to talk him down. Of course, Eric's like, fuck you, Clark Kent, and throws Clark across the thing onto a car. So Clark gets hurt, and you get another moment of Eric goes back home. His parents called the cops because they're like, fuck this shit. And we don't see what happened right then and there, but when Clark hears about what the commotion is, he goes to the house, and you see the aftermath. And obviously they wouldn't have had the budget to shoot this, but the aftermath was almost just as good, of the cop car thrown into the house, the roof of the house, a bunch of cop cars crushed on the street. That was great. It just makes us imagine what really happened. Clark figures out that Eric went back to the scene of the beginning, the bridge. He goes there. I love the idea that Clark had to run there, because when he comes in and yells for Eric, he's clearly out of breath. I think Tom Welling played that very well. And he's trying to talk Eric down from the bridge, but obviously Eric is in no danger anymore. And they have a fight. I should mention, I can't believe I forgot this. So Clark realizes that if kryptonite was his weakness, maybe it's Eric's weakness too. So Clark goes and he asks Lana to borrow her necklace. And I'm surprised Lana wasn't more like, wait, what? I mean, she does say, what do you need it for? But he doesn't say. He just says goodbye, Lana, like he's about to die. Maybe he thinks he could die. But he just leaves. I'm like, well, what does Lana think is going on? Like, she's very trusting and very just, I guess, doesn't think much negative about Clark, that she would just give her necklace to him and no big deal. So he has the necklace, and Eric is throwing him around. And at first I thought, is lightning about to hit them again? But no, there's this like electrical area, and they get electrocuted. And so that's how Clark gets his powers back. And so I like the episode in the sense of, because the body swapping or Clark losing his powers, we do see this a lot throughout the series. This might be the first time we see Clark lose his powers, but this won't be the last. And so, yes, it might feel cliched, or it might feel like, okay, not the most dynamic situation, but I like it when you get to see Clark without his powers, when you get to see how he would react in situations without his powers, or how he was actually okay with being normal, how he didn't really miss not having his powers. It's interesting to explore the Clark Kent character without the powers, to get to know that he's just an all-around good guy, powers or not. I liked a lot of things about that. I liked the scene where Clark gives Lana the lead case for her necklace, the same one that Lex gave him. And even Lana's like, is this your way of telling me not to wear the necklace anymore? And Clark's like, well, yeah. And there's also a really weird scene of the reporter of Lex's finds these pictures of Lionel sleeping with Victoria. So we know Victoria was sleeping with Lex, but I guess she was also sleeping with his father. That's super fucking weird. It's super weird, and it's gross, and it only makes Lionel look even more like a piece of shit than he already is. Grosser, and just all of it. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments below, what did you think of Leech? Did you like it as well? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.